right, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I have a very deep and insightful conversation here for you today. And this one is definitely going to ruffle some feathers and definitely is going to be very uncomfortable. And these type of uncomfortable conversations we have to have because what I'm focused more on is more on how your data is being handled and how it is changing hands and is a new form of digital currency that we have today. And as we look at this, when you think about data privacy, we usually think about big tech companies that are handling your data, passing your data to third, fourth, fifth parties. And when you look at companies like Facebook or Meta or Google, your TikTok platforms and the social media platforms that we deal with on a consistent and daily basis, you understand that each thing that you interact with your mobile device, basically you give that platform the opportunity to track what you post, what you buy, and what you like. So therefore, marketers know exactly how they're going to target you in terms of trying to upsell you more and more things as you move on throughout your life. And I bring this up because what most people don't realize is that same technology is now showing up in churches. Now, I want you to keep that in mind as we look at churches, whether you go to a small mom and pop church, you go to a big mega church, whatever the case may be, at some point in time, it's already happening right now with major large mega churches, but may not have yet reached the smaller churches embedded within local communities. And many of you are probably wondering, well, what does IT have to do with church? And that's what I want to be able to explain to you today because on the surface, it sounds most definitely helpful. Churches are going to have more computers, churches are going to have people interacting and doing things on the system, whether they're recording their finances or have some type of computer network within the facility itself. And that may all sound good on the surface level. But what most people are not taking a look at is that when you look at companies, there's one company right now, particularly a Gloo, Gloo. And you can definitely look them up. They have a website which I'll pull up here in a second. But I want to make sure that you definitely take a look at this because this has been going on for a few years, and I'm sure you probably have never heard about it in church, probably never will, because this is one of those things that if you don't keep up with technology, you're more than likely not going to discover it, nor is a church going to tell you, of course, what they're going to be using. But Glow basically markets itself as a faith tech platform. Now, this is something very, very new for people, definitely new to me as well. But when I came across this and was reading an article, I began to do a little bit more research and reading to kind of get a better understanding of this. But when you look at a faith based tech platform, yes, it's going to connect churches, it's going to help them communicate better with its members and know exactly what's going on. But now that's getting paired with artificial intelligence, aka AI, to basically help strengthen the church community or the faith-based community. But if you dig a little bit deeper, what you would most definitely find is it's really about data collection. And here's the thing, for example, pick wherever community that you live right now. So for wherever that you live at and for wherever that you attend your worship service or your church service at, would you want your data being shared with a third party or another company that is somewhere located here in the US? They house the data, they have your information, but then you gave your information to your local church. How would you feel about that? It'll be the same equivalency as someone basically putting cameras inside of your house for the whole world to be able to see, right? It is private. There's personal and private information that you most definitely want to keep safe. And so that's what we're going to go over as we get down into the nitty gritty and the details about this, because all this basically is basically data collection. And that means that whatever or wherever that your information is being part of an intake process coming in, that data is being housed somewhere, meaning it's being collected and it's being passed off to another company for processing the information and knowing how to basically target you in terms of marketing. But before we get into that point, the moment that you take your device, you log in online, you use your phone to go to different sites, yes, you basically give up different pieces of information in terms of what you visit, so that when you start seeing ads and things and videos that basically kind of surface around the area that you're in and know exactly what you are going to. But every time that, for example, that you basically give online in church, or you sign up for a ministry group, or you check in for Sunday service, whether if your church has a daycare or not, keep in mind that that information don't just vanish into the church local intranet or the church local system like it used to be back in the old days. See, I remember growing up in church, we had like a record book that the church secretary would basically record the amount of money that came into the church, record the number of members that basically came through the door, the attendance last Sunday and the attendance today, and things of that nature. Like I remember those days of that being mainly actually physically written down, pen and paper in a log book for them to be able to track attendance. Now that has become much more digitized in a way that I would not be surprised if facial or biometric recognition is recording, of course, the members coming into the facility. Their information is being processed. Their information may be housed strategically there on a local computer, maybe a local network closet or server closet that's there. And then guess what? Information exported right on out the door into a company like Gloo. Now, we do run into new things that do happen, of course, in society. The purpose of this particular video is to make sure that people are aware of their data and their information, because I'm sure you did not sign any um, disclosure agreement with your church in order to pass off your information to any company that practice this whole faith-based tech platform. I mean, at least I've never seen any um, feed or seen of anybody telling me that this information has happened, but it doesn't surprise me because people secretly gather information from you every single day of your life. When you're driving down the interstate, you're getting gas or something like that. But to have this type of technology in church and you not knowing that your information goes from your church, and if your church works with or in collaboration with Glow, your tech and your information and the data technically is being housed to do data analytics, data science behind the scenes to know how you're going to be targeted in terms of whether you're going to give more, whether you're giving less, or whether you're about to leave their particular church. That's where we are right now. And it's really, really sad because now people are not really getting the opportunity to know each other. And I'm bringing this to you here on the channel because I want you all to be aware. And when we're looking at this, just know that AI is going to be embedded more into the church. And this is why here on Tech Unfiltered, as I began to take the information, look at it, dissect it, and then present that to you in a way that is easier for you to understand, because I'm willing to bet you this. You're not going to hear this from your church. They're not going to tell you to sign a form to release your data. They're not going to tell you any of that. But being in the technology space all these years and understanding how it works and how technology works, and especially how the cybersecurity side works, it is definitely something that is extremely deep. Because imagine your pastor Imagine your pastor knowing when you are about to stop attending church before you even tell the church that you're no longer showing up for service. Or what about giving patterns predicting how engaged you are in your faith? See, that's none of anybody's business other than you, between you and who you worship. That's it. See, you and God will have an understanding. Never would I have thought about the day where faith based technology and AI will integrate its way into much more of a personal experience on a Sunday, Saturday, Wednesday, whatever. But we're going to pick Sunday. That's the place where you not thinking about work. You're in church. You're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about any other day. You're literally there having a one-on-one conversation with God, and just knowing that the amount of time that you spend in there and your tithing and all that, that information is being converted over into data. Because see, you have a church who will be nonprofit, but then your data collection is for profit because that gets transferred to another company for them to be able to analyze to learn more about the people that are in the church. So that way they can figure out how they are able to manipulate the psychological aspect of people so that they can then feed back into the church and know who they need to target for help, who they need to target to probably push more to give more tithes and things of that nature. But this is where we are right now. And this is not a movie, this is not a sci-fi movie, people. This is really happening right now. We are in the age of artificial intelligence, aka AI, and that is embedded, deeply embedded into the church. When I get ready to show you that Wall Street Journal article, you are going to see that, and it's going to really, really make you think. Because think about it, people are more remote than ever, people are more at home than ever, and that is the way that we are at right now. But I want you to be able to protect your faith in the digital age, and this is what your church is not telling you about your data. Now, will you know if they are using a company like Gloo, for example? Absolutely not. You're not. And see, yes, you share data with other companies that you do business with or sign up for. Maybe in the terms and conditions, you may not have read that to understand how your information is being moved from one place to the other. That's fine. That right there is understood because you did not read the terms and conditions, but I'm willing to bet that you have not signed any terms and conditions for the data that's collected on you at church. See, it's one thing if the information stays within the church ecosystem locally. That church is at 123 Anywhere Street, Anywhere USA, you will want to hope that that information stays right there and not transferred to a cloud platform like Azure or GCP or AWS. And that company that owns the data, like for example, Gloo, has a cloud-based technology. So your data leaving the church goes to a cloud network that is owned by Gloo, for example, stored. It's there. What are you going to do about it? And see, now retrospectively, I would not be surprised in years to come when this video hits somebody, they begin to think, I wonder if my church is into this. And so when you look at Glow and you look at their site, let me go ahead and pull that up and show you, because I most definitely would say that this is very, very important for you to actually see. And this is not to scare you. This is basically me being transparent and showing you exactly what is going on right now that you need to actually see. So, for example, when you look at Glow, You must understand that it is a AI based company that basically takes faith based technology and it's trying to get that into a giant ecosystem where they're able to basically pull information from every church that they possibly can. So, for example, as you see here at the current time on their site, the faith based ecosystem, the analog way, the offline way, is they say it's one of the most largest and most resilient ecosystems in the world. However, when you look at the number of churches, that's well close to a half a million churches and ministries, and how they're helping them basically saying that they're digitally underserved, which they should stay digitally underserved because you don't want things that are personal within that particular church being stored in the cloud somewhere that basically gives bad actors the opportunity to break into their information. And now they have profiles on everybody that's out there. Because think about this, especially with mega churches, there's already profiles on the members anyway, because they have to know, of course, your first, last name, likely address, birthday, so that they can give you calls during that particular time. And definitely going to have a record of the amount that you tithe, of course. But that will most definitely be a bad idea, that if the pastor and the church leadership, if they are using this particular platform like this to know who is tithing the least and who's tithing the more, that will most definitely show favoritism towards members, because they can see the data analytics by looking at graphs and looking at pie charts and 3D pie charts and stuff like that. If you have over 50,000 members, the old school way is the pastor got to know the people personally. They pastors will go over to the people's house and eat and hang out. Now the pastor will get to know the people that they need to get to know if they feel and see that they're going to lead the church based on the data that they're seeing, knowing who's tithing the least, who's tithing more. They're going to see all of that information. And this is not a good thing. This is not a good thing because this is much more personal. People want to be able to come to church and worship in peace and not come to church to worship and knowing that their data is most definitely being taken. And definitely check this out. It's on glow.com. You'll see all the information that's there. I'll let you guys go over and take a look at it. But then when you look at that Wall Street Journal article that I was talking about, that Wall Street Journal article, look at this. Church target new members with the help from big data. A small company called Gloo mines online data for people who might be receptive to evangelizing and church outreach. And you can definitely go and take a look at the articles. Of course, they got a wall garden there, so you're going to have to pay to get the rest of the information. But you will see if the pastor is not actively talking to the members physically, they won't know the ins and outs of the person's life. But they talk to them. It's like a smaller church. The pastors get to know the members. They talk. They may call and check on them. They understand. They have a physical representation versus having a data representation where the pastor never have ever seen you to your face, and then they get able to get a profile read on you before they actually come to visit you. Same concept as a doctor looking at a chart on the outside of a room before they walk in to actually start talking to you about your medical history. I would not be surprised if medical history and what's going on at the hospital feeds right on over into a system that feeds to this face-based technology system where the local church is now able to see your health data, they're able to see your personal data, and they're able to see everything about you that they need to know to determine how they are going to react to you. This is the direction, people, that technology is heading in. And I want you all to just be aware of what is out there so that you do not get caught with your pants down. I just want to be able to provide you the information. Now, when you look at beneath the surface, for example, of Glow, you definitely want to ask yourself, for anybody that's a good critic of it or whatever, is turning faith into data points. So everybody's going to be a point. Those points, each person makes up a type of data profile, a different role in a field of data. And that is where privacy concerns begin, because there's no way that a company that is for profit should be mining data for a church to read profiles on its people that are in the congregation. Separation. That needs to be separated. We shouldn't even be having this discussion right now. And I'm very big on being an advocate for privacy, because I do understand that, of course, as we grow in technology, there's going to be more and more things and more profile reads on people. However, I want to be sure that we have a thorough understanding that as we are going through this, that you are aware of what is out there, because a lot of people don't know. And this particular article came out on December the 20, looks like December the 26th of 2021. So here we are in 2025. And I'm seeing this right now in 2025, but never would I have imagined that these two, that technology and church, will meet at some point in this lane. Now, when we look at the type of data, for example, you may say, hey, what type of data is the church pulling on me? Are you serious about that? They're not pulling data on me. Well, when you look on the surface level, think about this, the type of data that may be collected, which probably is collected if they're using this program in the church or the faith-based artificial intelligence. Attendance and check-ins, the moment that you walk through that door, is there any biometric camera scanning like it is at the Amazon store? Ask yourself that. Why not ask yourself, what about giving and tithing history, which I think is going to be probably one of the top pieces, could be a primary key in that aspect. Just what if that they are able to look at the analytics on the number and percentage of people who tithe the most over a certain amount of money? I mean, just think about the fields of data within that people. Say you got 5,000 members or 10,000 members at your church. Think about how somebody can tear a spreadsheet up and sort out the members who are probably in the top 5% of their highest donors in the church. Then you're able to react a certain way. See, people start treating them a certain way because they tithe more than everybody else versus the people who may not tithe as much. That right there is what scares me, because they're going to be able to see that information. Or what about the small group participation, whether you register for a program, the moment that you scan the QR codes and stuff like that, bingo, you hit the site. It's common sense, people. Any site you visit, they're going to have a counter to know when and how a person accessed the site. You know that data's got to be collected there. That was a no-brainer. Most of you definitely know that just with any site that you visit. Scanning QR codes, definitely pulling the data right there. And does that feed off into geolocation or triangulation? Who knows? What about the online engagements? When you go into the site, you go to the Zoom calls, the meetings and things like that. How is that tracked? Who has that information? And then when you look at social media or third party demographic data, that may be collected as well, because when you start posting on, for example, the church Facebook page or Instagram page, whatever the case may be, and you're definitely free to choose how you want to choose. This is not a video to scare you. This video is to make you aware of how your data is being used outside of the church, because churches are now using that same predictive analysis that is used by major corporations to know when a person's going to be probably tithing more, tithing less, getting ready to leave, or may not be as much into their faith. But the thing is, but for the souls, they're using this, supposed to be saving souls, but instead, it's most definitely sales, because they're going to need to know, how do we handle the type of people who may not show up as much? How do we get them more engaged? And that is where the faith-based technology companies come into play. They're helping them look at these big old amount of data lakes, and they can tell you about every single member in their church and what angle that the church needs to talk with them in order to get them much more into the faith and back into the doors. It is there. And there are ethical dilemmas behind this. There are strong ethical dilemmas behind this, but what side of the aisle do you stand on? Think about this, people. Look at all the technology that is in church. But I want you to ask yourself, because this is where the ethics and more philosophy come into place. But are the congregations being surveillanced in the name of ministry? As you all are sitting there, the camera is spanning, because now churches are now online. See, while you may be sitting there in the congregation, the camera may be rolling to stream live to Facebook or stream live to X or whatever. There goes your video. There you are. You're online. You didn't sign a form releasing any of the information, but it's there. And see, all it took was just a small inch for this to grow into the area that it's in now. But what about this? Do people know their personal struggles might be analyzed by algorithms? Because the moment that sits inside that cloud platform, the moment that data starts to be analyzed in order to predict what will happen later on down the line, I would say will happen well before 2030. You're going to see a lot more hacks and break-ins and breaches in this particular type of data here. And that is scary, people. That is scary. But when you ask yourself, who controls and secures the sacred data of this sacred data, it's no longer the church. The church does not control the data. If the church is paying for a program to be used, like this program with Gloo, Gloo is going to own that data. And there's going to be more companies out there just like this. There's going to be well more companies out there just like this. And you all need to be aware of that. You all need to be aware of this, because this data is sacred. Faith should feel, faith should feel personal. You should know that when you're in there and you're talking with your pastor, you're interacting in churches, you're going to the church groups, that you have a trust-based system that's going on there. But the reality is right now is that this should not be predictive. This should be natural conversation that you are having within the church side itself. Now, flipping that on its head, looking at it from a cybersecurity standpoint, that's the point I'm looking at it from in this particular video, where I'm providing you the examples here, is that I want to make sure to break this down clearly to you all here, but the church data is sensitive and is also vulnerable. And it's these ways because churches are not equipped to have a full-scale cybersecurity team 24/7, 365 like corporations have. Small churches rarely have cybersecurity protections. They don't have no antivirus on the computers. They're streaming everything online. They don't have the protections that corporations have. They are nonprofit. How are they going to pay for a cybersecurity team? Because nobody's going to work for free. And see, the moment that the cybersecurity teams happen is when you know there's data to be protected. And this is scary. See, this is different than what the way that the churches used to be back in the 80s and 90s. This is way different here. But I want you all to be able to understand and know where we are going with this. I want it to be crystal clear of the direction that this is going. And this is very tough for me to be able to provide to you because I'm trying to help you all out. I'm really trying to help you out. I'm really trying to help you like look at this in a different way because small churches don't have a cybersecurity team. And maybe possibly large mega churches may have IT departments,
By
but they don't
embracing these
have
new tools,
qualified
we can
security teams
amplify
to
our
protect the
mission
data
and reach
because the
every
data
corner of our
that
growing
is in
community.
there, I would say the most probably private part will be the amount that the members donate into the church. So now a bad actor or hacker that breaks into the network can basically look at a database and figure out who is paying the most amount of money in the church, then turn around and then go out and find and hack that person and figure out where they likely live, which is probably somewhere within the geographic area in the church within a specific mile radius. Now the church has opened up the possibility for a high donor to be able to get hacked and get their information and their identity stolen. See, that is where this is headed to right now. But if Glow or similar, vendors like that were breached, personal faith data will be exposed. And it's only a matter of time before we hear it on the news. And at that point, what happens from behind the scenes, we don't know. But just know it's going to happen. You will hear about a data breach getting to one of these faith-based ecosystems that is AI related. You're going to hear about it. But when a company handles a spiritual profile, a breach isn't just about the data loss. It's going to be a trust circle and a trust crisis that is going to be lost as they are going through this. And so the position that I'm looking at this from is, even though this has to do with faith and people are going to continue to go to church, people are going to continue to go and worship God, I don't want any of you all to be silly about where your information is at out here. Because I'm not saying that AI cannot help the ministry, but when did the church send out forms to let people know whether or not they want to opt in or opt out of having their data being shared to third, fourth, and fifth parties and to companies like Gloo to process the information or become data processors for that? And see, that's where the transparency is missed. So since that transparency isn't there, many of you had no idea about this until you saw this particular video. And that is why I am bringing this to you, because I want to make sure that you are aware of this. And because people deserve, of course, transparency with these particular topics here. But this ecosystem of information is like universal to everything. The moment that you go and buy groceries, the moment that you go and rent an Uber, the moment that you go and fly out to another country, the moment that you get in your car, the moment that you go to the dealership, all this information is here. AI and faith are now in one piece. But I want to ask you this, and I want you to keep this in mind and ask yourself this so that you can become more aware of your data and things like that. Because data is going to always be shared. It's going to be always shared to marketers so people in the company, the for-profit companies, will know how to market to you and sell you more product. Now you have to worry about the nonprofit, which is your church. Where's your church selling the information to? Who are they connected with? What programs is the church using to help them organize and dissect the information that they get from the congregation? Is it companies like Gloo or whatever other company I heard that is like them that may be a competitor? See, these are the questions that you need to most definitely ask because it's not going to come up. This will never come up during a sermon for sure. Not going to come up. That's why I'm here to bring the information to you as I see it. Now it all makes sense. I understand it from a technological perspective. I understand what's going on because that's the direction of technology. More of these companies are going to come up, nothing that you can do about it in terms of not giving you out your information or probably not even going at all. But this may drive some people crazy. However, from a human standpoint, your information should not just be given out without your consent. That's what we need to look for here because there's going to be another part of this video because I really enjoy researching this topic because I learned something new and that new information I want to bring and break down to you. But I want to definitely get back to the questions that I have here for you. What data is being collected? That's what you need to figure out first. Then your second question should be who owns the data? That's going to tell you which direction that you need to look. Third question you need to understand is can I opt out? How can you opt out of something if you never had the opportunity or even heard of someone saying they're going to be exchanging information out from the church to a third party company? And then the fourth question is what happens if there is a data breach? What happens when a data breach happens? Not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen because the person or whatever out there that breaks into that particular database, they're going to have a whole lot of information. But I want to leave you with this as we wrap this up here in Tech Unfiltered. Technology is a powerful tool and it will continue to get even much more powerful. And it is a force that's going to be driving through the very fabric of human existence. But when faith meets data and it's going to continue to grow, we must protect what is sacred. Just like people protect the word that is sacred, people need to be protecting their data, which is sacred, and our privacy that is sacred, and our trust, and most definitely in humanity as well. So, as you look at this, and definitely comment below, we're going to do a part 2 about this because I definitely want to bring this conversation to the table to get some different angles on this because I'm sure I'm going to have people, probably have more people who probably didn't know about this and have more questions. Maybe a few people who are definitely for it, which is, to their own liking, to their own thought. But I want to leave you with this. Would you be comfortable knowing that your church, wherever you go to, that your church is using artificial intelligence, aka AI, to track your faith journey as you move through it? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Like, listen, subscribe, people. DivTech 101, aka Black Mantle, as we took a look here on Tech Unfiltered, where I've been providing you this insightful, just straight detailed information about tech. We definitely will be having this conversation again soon. So let's check this out again. We'll talk, subscribe. Peace. Stay sharp, stay secure, subscribe for more tech with purpose, only on DivTech 101.